Friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about the #1 wealth killer. I guarantee you that if you stick around to the end of the video, you will find some helpful tips and how to avoid this one thing. Now, before we get into what this one thing is that's the #1 wealth killer, I think it's important to discuss the top expenses for American households every year. So the first one is obviously housing. Second one is transportation. 3 and 4 vary between food and clothing, but I think the first two are the most important. So the first one is pretty concrete, right? Housing is a basic need. Whether you rent or own a house or apartment, you need it. There's no getting around it. But transportation, on the other hand, depending on where you live, you might not need to own a car. You may use the bus, you may use some type of other public transit. So if you lived in New York, you probably don't have a car, depending on where you live, if you live in the city. But for somewhere like me in LA, you would need a car because it's really hard to get to every part of LA without a car. And that brings us to the #1 wealth killer, which is a car payment in particular. So the average household in 2022 spent $700 on a car payment for new cars, which is absolutely absurd, and I'll talk about that in a minute. For used cars, it was $500, which is still really high, but let's get into that right now. So I think first we really need to discuss the difference between buying a new and used car and what are the pros and cons. One of the pros of a new car is that it's clean, it's yours, you're the first one to use it. You might have a warranty along with your new car. Some of the cons though are that as soon as you drive it off the lot, it loses anywhere from like 5 to 20% of its value right away because it becomes a used car. For used cars, one of the big pros, depending on the model of course, is that they are generally a lot cheaper than their new counterpart. Some of the cons, however, are maybe a higher cost of maintenance because the car is a little bit older, and you definitely don't have the same status when driving an older car. And that brings me to the crux of my argument today with cars, is that people buy them as status symbols when they really can't afford them. I have a bunch of friends, family members, extended relatives that I know that do this all the time. Friends of mine have $500 to $700 car payments every month, and it's absolutely absurd. When you're 25 years old and you're only making $80,000 a year and you have a $40,000 car, it's a little bit absurd. So I did some math. If we take that $700 average new car payment in America and we invest that over the course of 30 years. So the way this would work is for 5 years, you're putting in $700 every month. And then after those 5 years, that money is just vesting with no more money added to it. You're going to have a couple $100,000 after the course of 20 years. That car that you're buying for 40 grand and spending $700 a month on is literally costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, depending on the interest rate. This conversation is really interesting to me because I think a lot of people fall into this trap. I have a lot of friends that are very good investors and savers, but they slowly get this lifestyle creep where they get more money, they start to buy a brand new car. Yes, maybe they can afford it. They're still paying $400 to $500 car payments a month. But like I said, that money invested over the course of the next 25 years is worth way more than the enjoyment, I believe, that car brings you in the moment. So you might be asking, Sam, what are you saying? Are you saying don't have a car payment? Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you save up some money, 10 to 15 grand will get you a good used car, and you're not worried about what other people will think about you driving it, that is going to be worth so much more in the long run. Like I said, the opportunity cost of you spending $700 a month on a car payment in the long run is costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a down payment on a house. That's your kids' college education. It's a bunch of other things that you could be spending that money on. It's interesting because I used to be a car guy. I was the kid who wanted a Ferrari, Lamborghini when I grew up. And as I got older, I just realized that that stuff was not as important to me. You might be a car person, and I understand that. But like I said, if you can buy used, maybe an older model of the car that you like, I think that's a better idea than buying brand new when you're really young, because all that money, the opportunity cost of that money is worth so much. I would warn against buying a brand new car until you have at least a couple $100,000 net worth, and even then, I don't think I will ever buy a new car in my life. I think buying a used car is the way to go. And if you look at some of the charts, actually, there are a lot of cars that hold their value decently. Like I know 4Runners hold their value a really long time. I think my uncle has like a 2000 and he could probably still get 10 grand for it. Try to find those cars that you can buy at a year where their depreciation kind of leveled out, right? So the curve is like this, right? As soon as you drive it off the lot, instantly it drops. and then there's a point at which it kind of slows out or it tapers off. Look for cars in that area. That way when you buy it, let's say you buy it for 10 grand, and then when you sell it in 5 years, you can still probably get a good 7-8 grand out of it. In summation, what am I saying? Save up for a car, pay cash for it. If you can't do that, don't buy a new car, get a used car, and if you have to finance it, please don't make it over like $300 a month, because all that money could be much better invested, and it's costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars to have that car. Just be mindful of this, okay? Next time you go buy a new car or lease a car, really consider it before you spend $500 to $700 a month. But like I said, the best way to do this is just save up that initial $10,000 to $15,000 that you need for a used car. Drive that until it goes into the ground, and then do the same thing and keep repeating. I promise you that this will free up your money so you can be more financially secure in the future. Friends, thank you so much for watching this video today. If you enjoyed this content and you want more like it, subscribe, leave a like down below. My channel is all about personal finance and helping you live a more financially free life. If you enjoyed it, leave me a like. See you in the next one.